President Lee Jae-myung pledged to expand its support for war veterans and bereaved family members on Thursday, as South Korea marked the 76th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War. The Jeju Forum is bringing together global leaders to discuss AI governance, climate action, and regional security, while contenders for the UN's top job share their vision for the organization's future. Rescue efforts are underway in Venezuela after back-to-back powerful earthquakes killed at least 32 people and left more than 700 others injured, with both these totals expected to rise. On this day commemorating the 76th anniversary of the outbreak of the Korean War, President Lee Jae-myung vowed to honor heroes and maintain peace on the Korean Peninsula. Our Yoon Jung-min has our top story tonight.
The South Korean commander-in-chief commemorated the outbreak of the Korean War 76 years ago by attributing today's peace and prosperity to the devotion and sacrifices made by war veterans.
조국의 명운이 백척간두에 섰을 때 자신의 모든 것을 바쳐가며 전장을 누빈 영웅들의 고귀한 희생과 헌신으로 이루어진 것입니다.
President Lee Jae-myung vowed to bolster support for veterans and the bereaved families of those killed in the war, calling for extraordinary compensation for their extraordinary sacrifices. He also vowed to keep the peninsula free from any concern of conflict.
강력한 국방력으로 국민과 영토를 지키고 전쟁이 일어날 걱정도 싸울 필요도 없는 진정한 평화의 한반도를 반드시 만들어내겠습니다.
He also thanked the UN veterans, adding that their solidarity evolved into today's steadfast partnership with South Korea and that the country bears a responsibility to repay the debt of gratitude it owes them.
유엔 참전 용사들의 한국 방문 초청을 비롯한 보훈 외교를 더욱 확대하여 참호 속에서 싹튼 영대의 정신이 미래 세대에도 살아 숨쉴 수 있도록.
On Thursday, the government confirmed awards for 3 members of the non-regular forces whose distinguished service during the Korean War had not been fully recognized. Later in the day, the president met surviving veterans for a feast to honor their devotion and sacrifices, noting South Korea's elevated global status today and the veterans' devotion along the way. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
And the memories of the Korean War are being preserved by the veterans who lived through it, including a man in his 90s who has donated his handwritten battlefield records to help keep those memories alive for future generations. Our Kim Bo-kyung tells us more.
Private First Class Han Hina served in the Korean War as a member of the Reconnaissance Company under the Armored Battalion of the Capital Division. Born in 1930 in Hamgyeong-bukdo Province, he dreamed of becoming an engineer, but when the Korean War broke out, he fought in the Rock Army, hoping he could one day pursue his dream in a free, democratic country. He has weaved together fragments of his memories from the war that he personally experienced and published a book.
It wasn't just once or twice. I survived many times when I could have died, and even I think it's a miracle that I'm still alive. I believe I faced those moments bravely and fought hard to stay alive. I wanted future generations to learn about sacrificing for their country.
And beyond that, the man, now in his 90s, recently visited the Army Archives Management Group to donate handwritten records of battles he went through. Since 2020, it has been gathering and restoring more than 81,000 Korean War military records, with around 50,000 have been restored to date. The war veteran took a look at the restoration process and thanked the archives for their efforts and for a chance to visit the place.
The records of the Korean War contain the sacrifice and dedication of those who served before us and are an important part of our national heritage. We will preserve these records and pass them on to future generations.
Veteran Han visited the Army Headquarters Hall of Honor and found the name of Staff Sergeant Kim Byung-chil, his superior and comrade who died in his place during the Battle of Sandugoksan, one of the major mountain battles on the eastern front of the Korean War. As he gently touched Kim's name and seemed to recall those days, he saluted with respect, with tears running down his face. The memories of a war veteran, preserved through his records and writings, can help future generations understand history and reflect on the meaning of patriotism. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Korean.
The island of Jeju has long billed itself as an island of peace. And on Thursday, that identity came sharply into focus as the 21st Jeju Forum for Peace and Prosperity kicked off with its core program under this year's theme, Reinventing Cooperation in a Fragmented World. Our Moon Hae-ryun tells us more.
Gathered on the southern island of Jeju on Thursday, world leaders and senior diplomats confronted a question that has grown harder to answer with each passing year: how to rebuild trust and cooperation in an increasingly fragmented world. In a pre-recorded message, President Lee Jae-myung described Jeju as a place that turned historical tragedy into reconciliation, and said the forum's mission grows more urgent as wars and global challenges deepen. It is a mission the government is now taking more seriously than ever. This year, South Korea's Ministry of Foreign Affairs joined as co-host for the first time. Speakers throughout the ceremony warned that no country can tackle climate change, artificial intelligence, or security threats alone. That warning found a sharp echo in remarks from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
We meet at a deeply challenging moment for humanity. Geopolitical tensions are rising, conflicts are causing immense suffering, and it also means listening beyond the usual rules of power, as you are doing in Jeju.
India's External Affairs Minister argued that fragmentation is now a permanent feature of the international landscape, but not necessarily an obstacle to progress.
This forum is discussing a fragmented world as a problem and reinventing cooperation as a solution. I agree with both the diagnosis and the treatment.
He argued that today's fragmentation is more complex than historical divisions, shaped not by clear strategic lines, but by intertwined forces of economic rivalry, technology competition, and eroding trust, all of which demand broader and deeper cooperation to navigate. That conversation carried into the following World Leaders session, where a panel of former heads of government debated where multilateralism has gone wrong and what middle powers can do to right it. Former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon warned that the major powers are no longer communicating as they once did, while the former Indonesian president argued that middle powers cannot remain passive. They must actively use multilateral institutions as a counterweight to great power unilateralism.
Throughout the remainder of the three-day event, sessions hosted by multiple organizations will tackle the topics of AI governance, regional security, and multilateralism in more detail. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News, Jeju.
The future leadership of the United Nations is also taking center stage in Jeju. Candidates for Secretary General have gathered to share how they would restore confidence in the world body at a critical moment for multilateralism. Our Oh Soo-young has the details.
Multilateralism is dialogue in practice. At a time when conflicts, geopolitical rivalries, and declining trust in international institutions are testing the global order, contenders for the United Nations Secretary General have gathered on Jeju Island to share their priorities for the future of the World Organization. The special dialogue forms part of this year's Jeju Forum, livecast globally by Arirang TV. Against a backdrop of growing fragmentation, each candidate outlined priorities for strengthening the UN and restoring confidence in multilateral cooperation.
The UN is the beating heart of multilateralism, but has the responsibility and the legitimacy to bring all regions, all actors, banks, the private sector, and of course member states together to solve the current challenges of our times.
Rebecca Grinspan, chief of the UN Trade Agency, said a culture of partnership must be fostered.
The UN is unique, but it's not alone. So we need to include the private sector in the conversation, especially, for example, in the frontier of knowledge and the frontier of technology. for responsible AI and to close the gaps in the digital space.
Rafael Grossi, head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, emphasized that the UN should be the principal force for multilateralism.
At the end of the day, the UN continues to be the only sole global platform, because all these groupings, in all their beauty and effectiveness, cannot reflect global preoccupations. They reflect partial visions.
Former Chilean President Michelle Bachelet joined the discussion virtually, calling for the need to enhance dialogue and respect for human rights. In an interview with Arirang TV, former President of Senegal, Macky Sall, said multilateralism must be built on the foundation of the development agenda.
That is why we must place issues such as access to clean drinking water, electricity, resource development and employment of young people at the centre of the global agenda.
Opening the session, former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said the next leader of the United Nations will write an epic next chapter.
The next Secretary General of the United Nations will have the rare privilege of rebuilding shattered trust in multilateralism and demonstrating convincingly and concretely that the United Nations can still make a real, tangible difference in the lives of ordinary people everywhere in this world.
For more than 2 decades, the Jeju Forum has served as a platform for dialogue to advance peace and prosperity. And this year's edition brings together these leading visions to restore common ground and cooperation in an increasingly divided world. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News, Jeju.
Korea is rushing to build a second mega-scale semiconductor cluster outside the capital region, backed by unprecedented state support. Now, this would be the nation's second such a project, with one in Yongin, Gyeonggi-do Province already in the works. Joining us in the studio tonight to discuss this further is our business and economy reporter, Kim Do-yeon. Welcome, Do-yeon.
Good to be here.
Do-yeon, so let's start with the top-level move. So President Lee Jae-myung is meeting with the world's top 2 memory chip makers, which happen to be Korean, SK Hynix and Samsung. There must be a big one coming, right?
That's right. Like you said, it is reported that President Lee and Samsung Electronics Chairman Lee Jae-young just had dinner behind closed doors earlier today, following a similar meeting with SK Group's chairman last week. As the world's leading memory chip makers amid the AI boom, the president is aligning with them to secure their commitments to this massive regional project. The core agenda is a second mega cluster for semiconductor production, driven by a massive corporate investment estimated at up to 400 trillion won, or about $260 billion. Now, to back this corporate funding, the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Resources issued a legislative notice earlier today. This decree provides legal framework for massive state support. Crucially, the government promises to cover up to 100% of the installation costs for critical infrastructure, such as power grids and water supply in provincial clusters. It will also expedite licensing through a fast-track system and relax financial regulations, such as easing the strict separation of industrial and financial capital to help these companies secure the massive funding required from outside private equity.
You know, it is an astronomical amount of money, but building these fabrication plants could take years. So the question is the investment timely? I mean, is there a risk that the AI boom might cool down even before the factories, open?
Right, but experts argue that not investing right now is actually a bigger risk. So global tech giants around the world are pouring roughly 1,100 trillion won into AI infrastructure this year alone, triggering a fierce game of chicken in the memory chip market. In this industry, the winner takes all, and those who fail to secure a dominant position simply cannot survive.
We need to widen the gap so competitors cannot catch up. If you do not secure a leading position, you cannot survive. That is why expanding investments right now is absolutely critical.
And regarding the longevity of the boom, industry veterans are highly confident. Experts also note that the structural demand for these chips is built to last, dismissing concerns of a short-lived trend.
The ripple effect of AI is immense, and there are currently very few alternatives to our existing semiconductor structures. For that reason, this chip demand will easily last for the next 10 to 20 years.
So the structural demand is solid. Let's move to the infrastructure. Why is the government once again looking outside the capital region, and what exactly are the infrastructure needs for this massive new site?
Right, so the government is framing this massive expansion as a critical point to have the regional balanced growth. The enforcement decree issued today explicitly favors areas outside the capital region for new special semiconductor zones. Now, President Lee Jae-myung emphasized that distributing this industrial weight away from Seoul is essential for long-term national development. Take a listen.
수도권의 기간의 핵심 인프라는 그것대로 고도화해 나가고 동시에 지방 곳곳에 새로운 산업 경제 기반을 구축해 수도권과 지방이 함께 윈윈하는 모두의 성장 시대를 반드시 열어가야 합니다. 이에 관한 구체적 청사진을 곧 국민 여러분께 보고 드릴 예정입니다.
As he said, this is absolutely not a cut down on the existing Yongin cluster that's currently in the works. Rather, the explosive AI demand is forcing Samsung and SK to accelerate their capital region construction plans by a full decade. With those timelines compressed to the mid-2030s, the greater Seoul area will simply exhaust its available land, power, and water by 2035, which adds another reason to look beyond the capital region. Now, as for the new plan that's in the works, the official announcement is set to come out soon, according to the president, and reports say it'll be early next week.
Let's see what the blueprint looks like next week. Toyan, thank you for the wrap-up.
Thanks for having me.
The death toll from Venezuela's twin earthquakes has climbed to 164, with authorities declaring a state of emergency. Our Park Jae-ryung reports.
Two powerful earthquakes struck western Venezuela on Wednesday just after 6 p.m. local time, causing at least 32 casualties and injuring about 700 people. The first, a magnitude 7.2 quake, hit about 160 kilometers west of Caracas. Less than a minute later, a 7.5 tremor brought down buildings, trapping people under rubble and leaving the authorities bracing for heavy casualties. Video footage showed emergency workers climbing through the ruins of a collapsed building in the capital, while distraught relatives sought help for loved ones believed to be trapped. Residents across the region expressed fear and anxiety.
I was really shocked. It was unbelievable. You can see how everyone around here is reacting. We're all scared. People are afraid to go back into their homes.
The U.S. Geological Survey said their model estimated a 39% chance the number of dead is between 1,000 and 10,000, and a 37% chance the figure lies between 10,000 and 100,000. The estimated economic losses are between 1% and 4% of Venezuela's GDP. Venezuela's interim president Delcy Rodriguez declared a national state of emergency following the powerful earthquakes and more than 20 aftershocks. She added that the number of casualties is expected to rise as rescue workers continue searching through the rubble. Meanwhile, a powerful earthquake also struck northern Japan on Thursday morning. According to the Japan Meteorological Agency, the magnitude 6.9 quake occurred off the eastern coast of Iwate Prefecture in the northeastern Tohoku region. The agency said there was no danger of a tsunami. Japanese officials said slight sea level fluctuations could occur along the coast, but there was no risk of tsunami damage. 박채령, Arirang News.
Washington and Tehran are set to resume negotiations in Switzerland next week, though sharp disagreements over Lebanon and nuclear inspections remain unresolved. Kim Jun-hong has this report.
Technical level negotiations between the United States and Iran are set to resume in Switzerland next week. Pakistan's foreign ministry said Wednesday that the two sides will return to the negotiating table within days after hours of discussions in Bergenstock on Monday. It described the current pause as temporary and said Pakistan and Qatar will continue their mediation efforts. Lebanon remains a key obstacle. Tehran again called on Israel to pull its forces out of southern Lebanon, describing a ceasefire there as essential.
For us, a ceasefire and an end to the war in Lebanon are just as important to us as a ceasefire and an end to the war are to Iran.
Israel, however, says its troops will remain in place. Nuclear inspections have also become a sticking point. The International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, said it plans to resume inspections in Iran soon to verify the location of the country's highly enriched uranium.
This has been signed, has been agreed. Paragraph 8 of this Memorandum of Understanding says explicitly that the nuclear activities that are going to be carried out with regards to the nuclear material facilities will be supervised by the IAEA.
Iran, however, denied agreeing to the inspections, while U.S. President Donald Trump told Fox News that American inspectors would join the IAEA mission. Despite the remaining differences, Trump voiced optimism, saying on the same day that Iran was making very big concessions in the negotiations.
As you know, we're winning by a lot. Iran is making very big concessions. We'll see what happens, but it's been very, very, very powerful. It's going very, very well.
He later wrote on Truth Social that Iran had confirmed it would not charge ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also said during his Middle East tour that the strait is an international waterway where no country can charge for passage. Kim Jun-hong, Arirang News.
5 more Korean vessels carrying 21 Koreans have passed through the Strait of Hormuz in light of the U.S.-Iran MOU. According to the Oceans Ministry on Thursday, this latest passage leaves behind 13 Korean ships inside the strait. That being said, 87 Korean crew members remain in the area, with 33 of them working on foreign-flagged ships. A Korean crude oil tanker also transited the Red Sea on the same day, becoming the 10th to seek an alternate route amid traffic disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. South Korea's World Cup fate is no longer in its own hands after a 1-0 loss to South Africa in its final Group A match. But hopes of reaching the round of 32 remain alive if the Taeguk Warriors finish among the tournament's 8 best third-place teams. Our To Young-eun has more.
South Korea's final World Cup group stage match against South Africa ended in a loss. Hong Myung-bo's side began aggressively with Oh Hyung-kyu leading the attack and Hwang Hee-chan deployed on the left wing, but their efforts fell short. South Africa broke the deadlock on 63 minutes through Tapelo Masiko on the counter-attack. South Korea pushed for an equalizer, but was unable to find a breakthrough. Mexico topped the group with 3 consecutive victories, while South Africa secured a second place with 4 points from 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. Having missed out to the round of 32 as group runners-up, the Taeguk Warriors must now wait for the remaining group stage results, as a knockout berth could still be earned if Korea finishes among the 8 best third-place teams. Naturally, fans were left disappointed.
I came here expecting a win, so I'm disappointed with the result. But the players worked incredibly hard, and I was still able to enjoy supporting the team.
It's disappointing, but the players gave everything on the pitch. I just hope things work out in our favor and that we can make it to the round of 32.
Although the result fell short of supporters' expectations, many fans continued to cheer and maintain their faith even after the final whistle. Known as chimek, a combination of fried chicken and beer, gathering to watch football has become a tradition during major tournaments. The nationwide cheering campaign once again offered a glimpse into Korea's unique football culture and the passion of the supporters even early on a weekday morning. Many supporters turned restaurants and pubs into lively cheering zones, applauding the players' efforts and showing their support despite the defeats. 조영은, Arirang News.
Showers will continue through tomorrow morning, so keep an umbrella handy. Rainfall amounts will vary significantly by region, ranging from 5 to as much as 80 millimeters. Another round of showers may develop in parts of Gangwon-do, Chungcheongbuk-do, and Gyeongsang-do provinces, bringing 5 to 20 millimeters of rain. Tomorrow, ozone levels are expected to reach bad levels in some areas, and UV levels will be very high nationwide. Some parts of the Jeollado provinces, including Gwangju, as well as Jinju in the Gyeongsangnam-do province, and Jeju Island could see UV levels in the extreme category. So be sure to wear sunscreen and try to stay out of direct sunlight. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 18 degrees, Chuncheon at 16 degrees, Busan at 20 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 30 degrees, Daegu 28, Gwangju 29 degrees. Looking ahead, it'll turn hot on Sunday, with Seoul expected to climb to 32 degrees Celsius. Now here's a look at the weather around the world. That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.